You are listening to the Intelligent Vocalist Podcast, episode 168.
Welcome to The Intelligent Vocalist with John Henny. This is the podcast dedicated to help you be a smarter, better, more informed singer. And now, your host for The Intelligent Vocalist, John Henny.
Hey there, this is John Henny. Welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Vocalist. I really do so appreciate you spending your precious listening time with me, especially in these crazy times. So if this gives you any small comfort during these times, I am so grateful and happy. And I'm happy to keep doing the podcast. I am working on my next book. This will be my third book. This book is a book on singing for beginners, you don't have to be an absolute beginner to get something from this book. But if you have questions about singing or things that frustrate you with singing, please feel free to send me an email, john@johnhenny.com, JOHNHENNY, and I will read everything myself and see if there are areas that I need to include in my book. Also, if you have suggestions for podcast subjects, please send me your suggestions to the same email. All right, today I want to talk about the lowly verse. The verse of a song is usually the first thing you hear. You get the occasional hit song that starts right with the chorus. That seems to be a little more of a thing these days, but usually songs begin with a verse. Verses are usually lower than the chorus. They are usually less melodically varied. They're not going to have big sustains. They're not going to have soaring notes. They're not going to have large jumps because the verse is setting the tone. The verse usually has more story to tell. When you're writing a song, you're usually thinking of the verse is laying out this idea, this emotion, this happened, and that's why, and then you get the chorus, which is a comment on what's happened in the verse. And the chorus usually has the same lyrics. Each time it has the hook, it has the high notes. It's why people love the song usually. And then the verse goes back to the storytelling with new lyrics. But because the verse is more low-key and it doesn't have as many singing challenges traditionally as choruses do, it will get the short shrift from singers. Not great singers, not experienced singers. They understand the value of the verse. But I find that beginning and intermediate singers kind of just gloss over the verse because the verse is not where the challenge is. They want to hit those big notes in the chorus, the exciting part, the part where they get to show off their voice. And if you're glossing over the verses in your practicing, if you're not really paying attention, if you're just focusing all the time on the choruses, you are missing so many opportunities in your singing. Great singers sing fantastic verses, and there are great challenges within the verse because they are not as melodically complex and they don't have the big notes of choruses. It's the first thing the listener hears, and you've got to draw them in immediately. You have got to create a story that grabs them and holds them until the chorus. Even if you are a monster on the chorus and you've got your high note and you can just hold it and wail on it, if your verses are dull and uninspired, there are going to be listeners who aren't going to make it to the chorus. They're just going to check out and they're not going to care. The only people who really care about vocal technique are voice teachers and singers. The average listener doesn't care, and I don't want them to care. I think it is more important to capture and move an unsophisticated listener, and I don't mean unsophisticated in a bad way, but somebody who's not really an expert on the human voice. It's so important to capture them rather than singing for your peers and other voice teachers. That's just its own thing, and there are singers that I do love on a purely technical level, but they're not my favorite singers. My favorite singers are people who can grab you, and those singers that can move just huge audiences and capture them with emotion and get them to have this communal experience. Those singers are a gift. That's why they become superstars. There's something magic about them. And finding not only the emotional connection in verses, but finding ways of musical variance. You have got to find colors in the voice, intensity levels, phrasing tricks to make these verses come alive. If you just do kind of rote singing and you're just waiting for the chorus, you've missed the plot. Now, some of the things you can really focus on in the verse, number one, is intensity. I've talked about this before with Billie Eilish, and I did a reaction video of her on YouTube. And the song I did, I think it's called When the Party's Over. I'm sorry, I'm going to forget it. I'm sure Billie Eilish fans are yelling at me if I messed up the title. But she finds so many different shades of breathy. It's almost all breathy, but she has different shades of breathy and different intensity levels. And then she'll come out of breathy very quickly and then back into it. And it's just wonderful to hear. What she's doing in the verse is she's creating all these different levels of intensity to capture the listener's attention, to keep it musically interesting. The other thing you can do is play with vocal color, play with vowels. I also did a reaction video on Karen Carpenter performing Superstar. And she does the same thing. People will tend to, if they dismiss her, which is a mistake, but people may think, oh, she's just kind of boring because she doesn't have these great, big, brash high notes. But she just plays with just different colors and different levels of intensity so wonderfully that if you listen, she will capture you. It's fantastic. The other thing in the verses, because it's not the hook, because it's not where you're going to have background singers and all the instruments going, you have more opportunities for phrasing. Now, in pop music, you don't have the phrasing choices like you have in jazz. In jazz, you can get pretty out there with some of the phrasing. But in pop music, you have phrasing as well. It's more subtle, but there's magic in the subtlety, is to just delay a note just for a second so that you set up a pattern and then you don't deliver on the listener's expectation to hear the exact same pattern again. So if you're playing with the intensity and you're playing with the color and you're playing with the phrasing, you really start to get something going. And then it's a wonderful place to work on your musicality in terms of sustains, vibrato. And I'm talking about just from a technical standpoint. Working on the verses allows you to work on musical elements without struggling for high notes, because high notes bring their own difficulties. So if you are in an easier part of your voice, you can really work on just holding straight tone and then just a little shimmer of vibrato at the end, how you are ending notes, how you are forming vowels. All of these and your dynamics, all of these elements can be worked on much more easily. Legato, just connecting everything together, finding little accents, working on your rhythm, finding the groove of the song and where you want to push and create pulses so that you're going along with the pushes and the pulses within the underlying groove of the song. And it's also a fantastic place to start working on emotion, to start connecting with the text, to start telling stories, to start singing the song to somebody and allowing emotions to come up and play with those. And you can get some amazing things going on the verses if you don't shortchange them. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick 3 songs where you love the vocal performance. Off the top of your head, go to YouTube or Spotify, pull those songs, and then I want you to just listen to the verses. Have the lyrics in front of you, and then pay attention to all of the nuances the singer brings to the verses and how they make each verse different. And how is the verse after the first chorus different from the first verse before the chorus? How are they building anticipation? How are they building intensity? How are they reeling you in to get you ready for the payoff of the vocal hook? Because if you do the verse right, then when you get to the hook, it's just fantastic. It's like fireworks. You've got everything clicking along so that the song is firing on all cylinders. And then take a song, it can be one of those songs or pick another song, and just work on the verses and see what elements you can bring to the verses. Play with those. And when you're listening to your favorite singers, write down everything they're doing. See what you can pick up and listen to each song more than once. One time through is not going to get it. You could probably listen to a single line 3 or 4 times and find different elements. Start writing down those elements and then start playing with those elements on the song that you've chosen to sing. And I think you will find there's a real treasure trove there to discover. Hey, if you want to know more about me, please visit my website, johnhenny.com. On the front page, you will see I have a free piano course. This course was previously $197. Right now, it is free. Just click on the link. There's no upsell. There's no catch. It's piano for voice teachers, but it also works for singers as well. I am getting more and more transcriptions of these episodes done of the podcast. So click on podcast up in the upper menu and go through the episodes. And you can even download PDF versions so that you can build a library of favorite episodes that you can go back and read and check out so you don't have to hear me babble every time. And if you are interested in online voice lessons, I do have some availability with one of my top associates. So just send an email to frontdesk@johnhenny.com if you want more information on that, and my front desk will get right back to you. And until next time, to better singing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.